Hey guys, welcome to another math lesson with HK Math and Science. This video will be about the circumference of a circle, and by the end of this lesson we should know the meaning of the terms diameter, radius and circumference and be able to find the circumference of a circle using a calculator. Let's just pause the video here and take a couple of minutes to write these down. So let's start off by going through the features of a circle, and that will address our first success criteria for today. So the first feature of a circle that we need to know is the diameter, and this is represented as d. And it is the distance across the center of a circle. So it's just that distance from one end of the circle to the other that goes through the center like that. Radius, on the other hand, is the distance from the circle to the center. So it's pretty much half the diameter. It would just be from there to there like that if it's drawn on top of the diameter. You can also see that over here. And the circumference, represented as c, is the distance around the circle. So it's pretty much the perimeter of the circle. We can calculate the circumference using pi, and these are our formulas, so you might want to write that down. Circumference can be calculated using 2 pi r or pi d. They're the same thing because remember radius was half the diameter. If we multiply r by 2, we'll get the diameter, which is why when we use radius is 2 pi r and we don't multiply by 2 when we're using the diameter. Or if we're given the circumference, we can find the radius by doing circumference divided by 2 pi, or radius equals circumference divided by diameter. So let's go into a little bit more detail about pi. Pi is approximately 3.14159. This is rounded or corrected 5 decimal places. It is often only used to 2 decimal places, like 3.14, and a more precise estimate for pi can be found on most calculators. So if you have a scientific calculator, rather than putting 3.14 or 3.14159, use the button pi on there. That will give you a much more reliable calculation to work with. Alright, so let's go through a couple of questions. The first one says, find the circumference of these circles corrected 2 decimal places. Use a calculator for the value of pi. So to do this first question on the left, question A, we would use the formula 2 pi r because that is the radius there. We're going from the end of the circle to the center. Now if we substitute radius in, radius is 3.5, so that will give me 2 times pi times 3.5. And now I'm going to put that into our calculator using the button pi, and that will give you a value of 21.9911486 and so on. And it says round to 2 decimal places, correct to 2 decimal places. So I only want up to here. And to do that, make sure you look at the number on the right. If it's smaller than 4, we keep that number as it is. If it's larger, 5 or larger, we're going to round it up. But this number is smaller than 4, so that means our final answer will be 21.99. And the next question, question B, this one now has a diameter. We're going through the whole circle there. So the formula with the diameter was pi times d, and that will give me pi times 4, and now we're going to put that into our calculator. And that will give you a value of 12.57 when rounded. If you are not quite sure yet about how to round to a certain number of decimal places, please remember to ask your teacher in class. Alright, now it's your turn. Just pause the video here and have a go at these ones by yourself, and just unpause the video when you're ready to go through them with me. Alright, so this first one, on the left, question A, we're using 2 pi r again. Remember, that is the radius. It's only going through half the circle. So we're going to substitute that in there. That gives me 2 times pi times 5. And now we're going to put that into our calculator again. And if you've calculated it, that will give you a value of 31.42. Give yourself a tick if you got that one correct. And this next one, this one's using the diameter. The length is going through the whole circle. So we're using the formula pi times d, or pi d. And that will give me pi times 16. And let's put that into our calculator again. And that will give you a value of 50.27. Give yourself a tick if you got that one correct. Alright, now this time, instead of using the button pi on our calculators, we're going to use this approximation for pi. So it's pretty much the same thing, we're just putting something different into our calculator. So same formula, this one's using the diameter, so circumference will be pi times d. And that will give me 3.14, because we're using 3.14 here, times 10. And you should be able to do this without your calculator, and that gives you 31.4 meters there. And just a tip for all the ones earlier, I should have put the units in as well. I would have lost marks if this was a test. Make sure you are putting in your units. So that should be centimeters, that should be meters, this should be centimeters, and that should be meters. I would have lost half a mark for each question here. And this next one, question B, we're going to use 22 over 7 for pi. And for this one, we've only got the radius, so it's 2 pi r as our formula. That will give me 2 times 22 over 7 times 14 there. And once you work that out by putting those values into the calculator, you should have got a value of 88 centimeters. Alright, now it's your turn. Just pause the video here. I haven't got these ones by yourself, and unpause them when you're ready to go through them with me. Alright, so starting with question A, and this will be pi d. Substitute that in, that'll be pi times 50, and we're using 3.14 as pi, so that will give me 3.14 times 50 there. That should be a 50. And once you've put those values into the calculator, you should have got a value of 150 centimeters. Give yourself a tick if you got that one correct. And now moving on to question B. We've got the radius this time, so it'll be 2 pi r. That will give me 2 times pi times 21. I'm using 22 over 7 as pi, so I'm going to do 2 times 22 over 7 here, times 21. And let's put these values into the calculator again. And that should give you a value of 132, and make sure you include the units, meters there. Give yourself a tick if you got this one correct as well. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully by now you guys do know the different features of the circle. So that's a diameter, radius and circumference. And finally can find the circumference of a circle using a calculator. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all back online.